All right, so I want to take you through a Kinstretch sort of class, which is basically where you're working on controlling the mobility that you do have. So I don't have a yoga block handy, but I have this little cushion. You can use a shoe, you can use a pillow that's rolled up, a towel that's rolled up. Get creative with it, not necessarily looking for special equipment, just looking at your ability to do the exercises. So with that in mind, I'm going to start out with some hip work, and then we'll move on to some shoulder work and just kind of hit the high points today. So to start out, first thing is we're going to go from the bottom up for our cars. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to bring your feet in front of you, and I want you to try to raise just your big toe, keeping the other ones down. If you need to modify this by holding down on your other 4 toes to bring them up, then that's okay, but ideally you would work towards separating them out. So we're just going to raise them 5 times, as high as you can get them, and then you're going to switch. I want you to keep that big toe down and raise your other 4 toes, and you're going to do that 5 times. What you should feel is that arch really working and getting stronger. All right, then we're going to move on to some tibial rotation. So you're going to basically put your leg in a lock, and I want you to turn that tibia from just below the knee. So I'm not looking at just an ankle movement, I'm looking at a rotation in the tibia itself. So we're going to lock it, rotate that tibia, extend as far as you can, internally rotate that tibia, and bring it back down. Externally rotate that tibia and bring it back down. And what you're doing is, as you go through these CARs, or controlled articular rotations, is you're being familiar with the workspace that that joint is going to give you today. And it can change every day, so you want to make sure that you do this daily and see how you're feeling. So we're going to lock the opposite leg. We're going to internally rotate, extend, externally rotate, return. So the movement will only come from the tibia. I'm not focusing on the ankle at all. Now we're going to keep it externally rotate, rotated, extend, and return. And don't try to look like me, just try to find your end range workspace. So those are the feet working into the tibia, and now we're going to go into the hip. So for the hip, I want you to keep your hands directly under your shoulders. You're going to take that plank position. You're going to take a breath in, and you're going to trap air in your lower abdomen. Breathe in, trap air. Bring that leg up like a hacky sack, so knee towards the armpit. Bring it to the outside. Internally rotate that foot, and bring it back. And return. We're going to take it back to the starting position. So kick the leg back to the outside, knee to the armpit, bring the foot up towards the opposite arm, and back down. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So bring the foot in, knee to the armpit, bring it to the outside, internally rotate, back to start position. Breathe in, trap air, externally rotate, internally rotate, back to bringing that foot in, and return to start position. So now we're going to flip over to our back. We're going to work on the breathing aspect of it. So on this exercise, looks much easier than it really is. So first, I want you to be aware of that diaphragmatic breathing. So as you breathe in and you breathe out, I want you to rest your shoulder blades down into the ground, and I want you to rest your low back into the ground. Now, you shouldn't be arching here just to get a breath. So breathe in, rest your shoulder blades into the ground, breathe out. This breath, breathe in, move the air down into your lower abdomen. I want you to just elevate those feet slightly off the ground. Hold that position as you breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. What you should feel is those lower abs being tight throughout the duration of the exercise. If you're ever arching that low back just to get that breath, then you don't have the control that you're looking for in those low abs. So when I say breathe in and trap the air in your lower abdomen, it's not this, it's breathe in, shoulder blades are down, raising up, and you should feel those abdominal muscles fire. So in this position, I want you to bring your arms up overhead. So your shoulder blades your ribs are knitted into the ground, but your shoulder blades are now elevated. All right, so taking that breath, keeping those low abs engaged. Trap air. I want you to bring that right hand up overhead, just to where you can take it. If you can touch the ground, great, but do it under control. And I want the only thing moving on your body being that shoulder. Good, take a breath. Trap air, opposite side, left arm. So this will tell you if you're unable to do this without arching that low back, that your lats are way too tight. And I don't necessarily know if tight is the right word to use here, but it does mean that we have to address some areas as far as lack of mobility in the lats. So I'm going back to the right arm and then back to the left arm. It should feel as though you're moving through very thick air and you're controlling every step of the way. So these should be pretty fatigued by now. We're going to bring it back down and take a breath and relax, keeping the ribs knitted down into the ground. One more breath. Good. With this breath, breathe in, trap air into the low abs, elevate the legs. I'm going to take them up a little bit higher. Bring the arms back up. Keep the shoulder blades elevated. Keep the ribs down on the ground. And with that trapped air, we're just going to bring that right foot down to the ground with a tap and back up. So what you should not see is any arching in the low back as you tap that foot. We're going to the opposite side. Take a breath. Really. And then we're going to drop the left leg down. He's really a lot of help right now. We're going to do it one more time each side. Take a breath in. Trap the air in the low abs. The only thing moving is that hip. That right hip. Tap it down. If you want it to be harder, then you can extend that leg. But it should never be at the compromise of not arching. And back down, because we're really after the control right now. So if you're going to extend that leg, you have to make sure that nothing else is moving. And then to make it a little bit easier, then you don't have to bring it up as high off the ground. And we just do these small motions. So feel free to modify the way that you need to. Bring the feet back down and rest. We're going to bring it up to a seated position. So that's the position that we want our low abs to be in through this exercise. So we're going to find ourselves in what we call the 90-90. So if you were to look down at your legs, you would have your left leg in front or your right leg in front, whichever one you want to start with. And it's going to be at 90 degrees off to the side. And this back leg is also at 90 degrees. So from the side position, this is what we're looking at. All right. So try to get into this position, and if you can't, then you can always modify it by bringing it in a little bit more. If you have difficulty getting into that position, then you feel some issues in the joint, if you feel any pinching on the closing angle of the joint, then you need to modify it and get out of it, because I don't want you to push through closing angle joint pain. Meaning that if I close this in and I feel pinching here. If you feel tension on the opposite side, that's okay, because that's what we're after. So we're going to start off in this 90-90 position, all right? And with this exercise, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be focusing on the front hip for this one. So I want you to take a breath in, trap air. I want you to lean forward until you feel that stretch all along the outside of the hip. If you're not feeling it, then feel free to move yourself into that position where you do feel it. But I want you to really tuck that pelvis away from you. So the side view is I want you to really really anteriorly tilt that pelvis. So you're trying to make a shelf to get that stretch. If you're sitting here in this position, all you're doing is you're compensating by trying to reach the ground and reach your leg instead of actually feel the stretch in that leg. So you should be holding that stretch right now. We're just gonna maintain our breath in this position. So right now, I want you to focus on not letting your central nervous system fight this. So it's just gonna be a nice stretch. And as you feel the stretch ease up a little bit, feel free to sink it down a little bit further. So again, a great opportunity to work on our parasympathetic system, because if we try to fight it with our breath or we're holding it, then we never actually allow those motor neurons to relax in that muscle. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to gain a little bit more working space in the hip. So again, if you have pain on the inside of the hip, then we're going to modify this exercise, and you can modify it by not going as deep for the stretch, or even modifying your position to be a little bit more angled. But find what works for you and listen to your body, because since we're going to be doing end range work, we don't want you to be hurting yourself. So we've been in this position, we're stretching the outside of the hip, and what I want you to imagine is that you have a water balloon right here in your hip socket. So we want to keep this foot up. We don't want it to drop down, but this is the angle we're at. And what we're gonna do is your hands are there for balance and stability, but I want you to take a breath in. I want you to trap air in the lower abs. Hold. I want you to bring that foot up with you. And I want you to hold for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, don't let it drop. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and take it back down to the ground. If it starts to lower naturally because you start to feel that strength diminish through that exercise, that's okay, but I really want you to fight for that space in that hip by continuing to hold that leg up. So now that we're back in this position, we're just taking a breath, resetting ourselves, and then we're gonna do this again. So this is what we call a passive range liftoff. Again, place your hands in position, take a breath, trap air in the low abs. We're gonna engage and squeeze that water balloon and bring it up as you tilt back and hold. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, fight for that space, squeeze that water balloon. 3, 2, 1, and take it back down and relax. Good. What you should feel is everything in here kind of firing. So those hip, meat wagon of your hip is doing a lot of work in these exercises. So that's only 2 reps. We'll kind of leave it at that for now, and then we're going to move to the opposite leg. So the opposite leg, now we're going to be in this internal rotation position. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see the position a little bit better. So in order to get internal rotation, we're gonna bring our hands, one on each side of that leg if you can. If you can only take it here, that's okay. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to rotate and sit back into it. And what that's gonna do is you should feel really deep tissue, really deep capsule, kind of working to get that hip into that position so that you can seat it back. What you'll see is if you lack internal hip rotation, then being in that position, you'll want to pop up, and that's not what we're trying to do. So we're trying to find that internally rotated position, find that position that you can rest in, and I want you to focus on breathing in that position right now. So this is just to get that body in position, and what we're going to do for the passive range liftoff here is we're going to keep our knee down into the ground, and we're going to try to bring that foot up. If I were to have you do that in this position right now, if you're truly at end range, it isn't going to move. And to be honest, I'm really not looking for a whole lot of movement. I'm looking for the deep musculature to contract through this. So we've been resting in this position, working on our breath, relaxing our muscles, and now what we're going to do is we're going to unrotate just a little bit so that we have a little bit of wiggle room. And what we're gonna do is, like I said, we're gonna drive that knee down, pull that foot up, and we're gonna hold. So we're gonna take a breath in, trap air, and we're gonna raise it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. And sink back into it. So a lot of times you'll get some cramping all along in here as you're doing that exercise. That felt kind of funny. And that's completely normal because we don't actually exercise our internal rotators that often. We do a lot of external rotation, so this is a great opportunity to work on that musculature that's deep in here. A lot of times when you see people that have IT band problems or IT band tightness, it's actually lack of the internal rotators doing their job. So this is why it's important. If you feel a cramp, you can come out of it, shake it out, reset. That's totally okay. But it's a good indicator, hey, I really should be doing more of these because my body is finding one rep being really demanding. So we're in this position, we're resting. We're gonna go back into that slight unrotated position. Take a breath in, trap air down here, and bring that foot up. It should only come a couple of inches off the ground for 3, 2, and 1, and relax. Good. Hopefully you tolerated that one a little bit better. That's 2 reps. So we've done 2 reps on the front leg, 2 reps on the back leg. And now we're going to switch to the opposite side. But to switch to the opposite side, I do not want you to use your hands other than for stabilizing. So you're going to take a breath in, trap air down here, make fists. Nothing else moves except for your hips. So you're going to bring that back leg out as far as you can as you rotate to the opposite side. And trying not to let your back do the positioning. And if you do that, then you're going to be in this perfect mirror image position from what you were in when we first started. So I'm going to have you get back into that position where you're stretching those front external rotators. So again, leaning forward, but working on tilting the pelvis and having an arch in your back, a reverse arch in your back as you're holding this position. So I want you to hold this position, and I need to turn the air on in this room while we're doing that. So, breathe. You want it to be nice, deep breaths, belly breaths, trying to enjoy this position as much as we can, because as you know, what's to come is not going to be as easy because we're going to be working everything deep inside in those rotators. So, still maintaining that breath, being very aware if you're not getting that stretch. Again, rotate and move your body in a way, and you can work different areas. Your body will tell you what you need to work on just by how you feel as you move through those positions. Just holding. Hang out. All right. So now we're going to take a breath. We're going to trap air. And remember what we're going to do. We're going to imagine there's a water balloon right here. So we're going to take a breath. And you want this space to be the same, ideally, is what we're fighting for. So take a breath. Squeeze everything in here. And as you rock back, keep that foot up and hold for 10, 9, 8. Try to keep this level. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rock it back down. And then we're going to relax in this position again, and we'll do one more rep. So we're going to hang right here. Breathing in this position, working on passive flow of those tissues. And like I said, we're only doing 2 reps on each side. We're doing 10-second passive range liftoff on the front leg and 5 seconds on the back leg. So working on the internal and external rotators, usually people can tolerate external rotation exercises a little bit better than they can internal rotation exercises. So this is just a baseline. If you feel that that wasn't challenging, then feel free to bump up either the reps or bump up the amount of time you're holding it. But either way, you need to find that end range and start from that position, because your end range can change every single day based off of how you abused your body the day before, or how your sleep was, or any injuries that might be resurfacing, any overuse stuff going on. So just listen to your body as you go through these exercises. All right, so we're gonna take a breath, trap air in the lower abdomen. Remember, we're trying to keep this in that position, and we're gonna bring it up and hold for 10, 9, 8, 7, fight for it, 6, 5, 4, 3, keep it level, 2, and 1, and relax, and breathe in that position. Good. So you should feel everything kind of relaxing on those external rotators in here. Awesome. All right, take it out of that position, and then we're gonna work on that back leg, those internal rotators. So again, what you wanna do is rotate towards that leg, and that's how you're gonna feel everything here kind of rotating in. So we're gonna work those internal rotators and just getting as deep as we can into that stretch. So holding that position, you can put your hands down if you need to. If you need to put them behind you and lean out of it, that's okay. But you need to find the position that's going to challenge you. And because we're working deep capsule, the fatigue that you're going to feel is very different than delayed onset muscle soreness. So that's why I recommend starting pretty low level, because it can sneak up on you. It's pretty easy to spend an hour or two doing this and not thinking that it's that much, because it looks like yoga, but this is much more intense than yoga, because what we're doing is we're building those isometric contractions, and that's where you really increase the force production in those cells, and therefore you increase the ranges that you're able to have. I'm not expecting this to take place of any of the strength training exercises you're doing, but this is merely a supplement to help you train a little bit harder and hopefully increase the resiliency in your joints so that you can tolerate the forces a lot better. So now that we've been hanging in this position for about a minute, we're going to take a deep breath in, trap air, and rotate just a little so that I can then bring that foot up and hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rock it back and passively hold that position. Again, if you're feeling like it's too much or you can't do it, then you can unrotate a little bit. If you feel any cramping, unrotate, and then sit it back down into that position so that we can do the second rep. It's, again, not uncommon for cramping to occur when you're doing these, but that's a great indicator that we need to be doing more. So again, resting in this position, working on that passive breath, trying to relax your body as much as you can, and then we're going to move into the next exercise, which is the next rep of this. So take a breath in, trap air here, keep the foot the same, 5, 4, 3, 2, fight for that space, and 1, and rock it back and hold. So that's 2, awesome. So now while we're in this position, what I want to do is work on hamstring strength of the front leg, and we're going to do the opposite side as well. We typically train our hamstrings, go ahead and unrotate, typically train our hamstrings in this like linear fashion where it's only in this position, and we never actually train our hamstrings to do anything for us when we're in this externally rotated position. So what we're going to do here is I'm just going to turn this way so you can see, is I'm going to put my hand behind my heel, and I'm going to put my other hand here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive my heel in like this, although it's not going to move because my arm is going to be the block. And we're going to go into that position now, so lock that front leg out with that bottom hand. And what I want you to do is I want you to curl that leg in. I want you to only give me about 20% of effort on that front hammy. Good, trapping air on your lower abdomen, give me 50%, so half a normal contraction like you're doing a leg curl. Build it up to 70, Really curl that leg in, keeping this leg down on the ground, keeping that knee down, and then take it to the max effort that you can safely. Really curl, curl, curl for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Excellent. And now we're going to come out of it. We're going to bring our foot out about 10 degrees. So instead of this 90-90 position, bring that foot out about 10 degrees. So I'll do it from this angle so you can see now. So now we're going to go into that exercise again. So we're going to lock that heel out, and we're going to curl that leg towards us. It's going to be 20% effort using that hamstring. Take a breath, trap the lower air, or air in your lower abdomen. Give me 50% curling. Build it up, 70%. And then max safest contraction. Really curl, 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 fight for it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good, and relax. Excellent. Now we're gonna bring it in at a little bit more of an acute angle. So instead of being right at 90, bring it in about 10 degrees. And we're gonna lock it in. You might have to, I have to get into here and kind of lock my elbow into my hip joint, but you can always use your opposite hand if you need to. I just wanna make sure that you're getting pressure on that externally rotated leg. So hold this position, take a breath in, trap air in your lower abdomen, and curl. Give me 20%. Ramping it up, 50%. Awesome, ramping it up, give me 70%. Really try to curl that heel into that hand. Good, ramp it up to max contraction you can safely manage. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and relax. Awesome. And we're gonna switch to the opposite side. Good, you should feel that hammy nice and warmed up. So we're gonna start out 90 degrees. Get into that externally rotated position. Grab that hand, hook up behind that heel. Make sure you feel that stretch in the outside of your hip, your front hip. Good. Now we're going to just engage that hamstring. It's gonna be 20%. You should be tight in the core. Nothing should be moving except for your leg. Take a breath in, trap the air, give me 50%. Ramp it up, 70%. And you got this. And then max safest contraction. Really squeeze, squeeze, squeeze for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And relax. Good. Bring that foot out about 10 degrees. Lock it back. All right. Take a breath in. Trap the air. Curl that heel in. Keep that front knee down on the ground. 20%. Ramping it up, 50%. Really squeezing, ramp it up, 70%. And max safest contraction, really try to curl that heel in, keeping the knee down on the ground. 3, 2, 1, and relax. Awesome, Ethan. You're now in the video. Now we're gonna bring the knee in about 10 degrees. So now we're at a total of maybe 80 degrees. Lock that heel in. Take a breath, trap it in your low abs, and curl that heel, 20%. Good, ramp it up, 50%. Trapping air in those low abs, keep it moving, 70%. Really squeeze that outside hip. And max safest contraction, curl that heel in, use that hamstring. Hold, 3, 2, 1, and relax, come out of it. Good. Now let's bring it in to a butterfly position. If this is a difficult position for you, what you can do is go into a bear sit position, which is out here like this. But I do want your upper body to be upright. This is not a good bear sit position. Same way that it's not a good butterfly position, because I want you to really be able to tilt the pelvis. So you can keep your feet out further if you need to. Again, don't try to look as my body looks. Do what your body needs. All right. So find either that butterfly position or that bear sit position. And I want you to lock those adductors down. So I want you to really push. You can either push down with your elbows. You could push out with your elbows. Probably demo this in bear sit. I'm gonna hold right here. So we're just gonna live in this position for a little bit. All right. And while we're living here, where you should feel the stretch, hopefully you're feeling the stretch, is going to be all along this inside edge, the inside groin. Again, if you're feeling pain through any of this, just back off slightly or readjust your position a little bit, because you should not be feeling pain. Discomfort's one thing, pain's another. So living in this position, now what we're going to do is I want you to build up a contraction without moving. I want you to breathe in, trap air in your lower abs, and I want you to try to push those knees against your elbows, but your elbows are not letting them move. So we're contracting the tissue that we were stretching. We're gonna ramp up that contraction. Now we're at 50%. Should feel that all along the groin. 70%. Nothing else is moving except for the groin muscles. And then max contraction you can safely do. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. 5, 4, 3, 2, hold. And then I want you to squeeze those knees away from your elbows as much as you can, and then have your elbows meet them there. That's your new workspace. We're going to take a breath. We're going to hold this position. Good. So you should have felt a slight movement. So as we build the groin muscles, we feel the ramping up there. When I tell you to pull those knees away from your elbows, you should feel everything in your glutes kind of fire to pull those knees down. Again, as your legs come down a little bit more and you need to readjust to feel a better stretch, feel free to adjust those elbows. And we're going to go into the second rep. So we're going to squeeze those knees up towards the elbows. Give me 20%. Your low abs should be tight. Ramping it up, 50%. Building to 70. Really trying to pull those knees in. And then max safest contraction. Squeeze, squeeze. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And use those glutes. Pull your knees down to the ground. And then readjust those elbows. Take a breath in this position. Good. And relax. Come out of it. Awesome. You're going to shake out those hips a little bit. Those hips should feel pretty good. So that pretty much concludes a little bit. 2 reps on internal rotation, 2 reps on external rotation on each leg, and 2 reps on adduction, abduction for your hips as well. So hopefully this helps give you an idea of Kinstretch. But again, we're working on just the hips right now. I plan to make other videos in the future. If you have any questions along the way, please feel free to shoot me a message and let me know, and I'll be happy to help you out. All right, happy exercising.